Hey, welcome to another episode of Mike's Collection. I'm Mike, this is my collection. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the G.I. Joe Figure Subscription Service 3.0. I've already done videos where I reviewed the 13 figures in the FSS 1 and the FSS 2. So today we're going to look at the 13 figures that were included in 2015's Figure Subscription Service number 3. So without further ado, let's take a look at those figures. So the first figure we've got here is Psyche Out. This is version 5, and it is based on the 1987 original vintage figure. So, take a look at him here. He's got lots of interesting gear. Now, this figure here was pretty much a complete repaint of the previous version, so version 4, and this is version 4. Now this one was released in 2013 in the G.I. Joe convention set. So the convention set's theme that year was Night Force. So it was a pretty cool set because it gave us the first modern era versions of a lot of characters that we didn't have yet. So Psych-Out was one of them. And so while fans were excited to get these characters, we were a little disappointed that they were wearing their Night Force colors, which was in the vintage line usually the secondary version. The original versions were released in kind of a more iconic outfit that was unique to themselves. So you can see with Psych-Out here, the original had a bunch of green and red and silver, but then when he went to Night Force, he was wearing muted grays and blacks, and that's what all the Night Force team looked like. So we got those characters in 2013 in the box set, and so then in the 2015 Figure Subscription Service, we got all of those characters with the exception of Charbroil, who we got later, but we got all those other characters from that set in their standard version 1 colors. So that's what you're seeing here. You can see that they're mostly the same. I think the only major difference is the sleeves. Now, one thing of note is when this version came out, he actually came with red dishes, these little things, and this thing here. So they were all red, which didn't match the vintage Night Force version. He had black. So then when they gave us this version in the Figure Subscription Service, this guy came with black ones, which didn't match this look. So we assume the intent was they knew they screwed up and gave us red dishes on this one, so they gave us the black dishes on this one. So assuming that most people that would have these would have both, and we could swap them out, so we'd have the correct colors for both versions. So yeah, this is a cool figure, even though we did just get a very similar figure 2 years prior. This is the color version I prefer based on the version 1 look. So yeah, a good figure. Good start to FSS 3. So the figure that shipped out with Psyche Out in the first shipment for FSS 3 was Repeater. And this is Repeater version 5. And it is based on the original 1988 Repeater figure. So like Psyche Out, there was a version of him included in the Night Force set in 2013. This here is the Night Force version. So a very nice figure with a very big gun. And yeah, so while this is cool, most fans wanted the version 1 look. And yeah, so we got him in FSS 3. And he didn't come with, I imagine he probably came with more guns than what I've got him displayed with here. But he did not come with this beast, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I prefer, same as with Psyche Out, I prefer the version 1 colors. So yeah, I was very happy to get this figure. And this guy is a huge figure. You can see kind of when compared to Psyche Out, I think you can tell there, he's substantially taller. He is, yeah, a big, beefy ranger. So another very cool figure. In the second shipment, we got Slice, and this is Slice version 7, but it is based on the original 1992 figure. So this one has a brand new head. So it's got that kind of fencing mask style. And it is accurate to the original Slice back in the vintage line. And otherwise, his body's made up of mixed parts. Most of them were probably originally part of Storm Shadow and reused for the Red Ninjas. Same as all of his accessories. We'd seen all of them before. But he did come with a pretty nice assortment of weapons. He's got the Wolverine claws here that I've got him displayed with. This backpack with 4 removable swords. And he also came with 2 hook swords that aren't displayed here. So he's a very nice looking figure. Very nice bright red. And he displays nicely with his partner in crime, Dice, who they were always seen together in the comics, cartoons. And so we got Dice in the first figure subscription service, and it took us all the way till number 3 to get Slice, but it's nice that the club eventually did give us both of these guys. And shipping with Slice was Muskrat version 5. Now this is based on Muskrat's original 1988 figure. So he's got that kind of teal green outfit, just like the original figure. He's got his boogie board or swamp skimmer is what they call it there. Removable hat. And just like Psyche-Out and Repeater, we got our first modern era Muskrat in the 2013 Night Force set. So here's Muskrat in his darker Night Force colors. So pretty much the exact same build. And yeah, they're nice figures. And I could have mentioned it with Psyche-Out and Repeater, I guess. Even though the heads are technically all reused for the figure subscription service, so they don't count as new heads. These guys did all get new heads in that 2013 set. So all of these heads are unique to these characters, which is pretty nice. There we go. So in the third shipment, we got Spearhead and his Bobcat Max. So this is Spearhead version 4. This is based on the original 1988 figure, who had this similar color scheme with the kind of tan and orange. Version 2 was the vintage Night Force version. And version 3 was the Night Force Spearhead in modern style from the same box set as Repeater and Psyche-Out and Muskrat. So here you'll see Night Force version. Pretty much like all the other ones, same build. They did add some goggles to his helmet for this one here. And oddly enough, the Max that came with Night Force Spearhead was brown. So, yeah, you see him here? So, I don't know if he dyed his cat or whatnot, because as you see, Max here is orange, and the vintage figure was orange. But yeah, Spearhead was perhaps my favorite figure in this FSS. And some people had gripes about his vest being kind of short, and also the head that he came with. So this head, when it first appeared on him in the box set, this actually wasn't a new head. This was a reused head. I think it originally appeared on Dusty, and it's appeared on a couple of figures since. But I like the head. It's pretty generic enough that it can look like anybody, and it suits Spearhead. And I just happen to love the vintage Spearhead figure. He was one of my favorites. So I didn't own the Night Force version of him as a kid. So even though it was cool to finally get a Spearhead in the modern era with this version, I was really hoping that we would get this guy before too long. So yeah, I was very happy to get him, and I was very satisfied with how he turned out. And along with Spearhead and Max, in the third shipment of FSS 3, we got Vypra, and this is Vypra version 4. And it is based on the 1998 original, although not as accurately as some of these other versions that are based on these other figures that are based on the version 1s, because the version 1 Vypra, her plastic was kind of a marbled, swirly black and blue and gray. So this one is just solid colors, so solid blue with some black trim on the costume. But yeah, it's the closest to the version 1 because version 2 and 3 of Vypra was in red. So this is much closer to version 1. Now this figure here, it's mostly reuse of it's Jinx parts. So you've got Jinx's head, Jinx's arms and torso. But one thing I do like about her is the legs belong to Scarlet. So you'll see her here with Jinx. And Jinx is a ninja, so she's got those kind of socked feet, I guess. Whereas Vypra is not really, she kind of looks like a ninja. She's not really described that way on her file card. She's a mechanic for Cobra, so it's nice that they changed up her legs and gave her these combat boots. So yeah, all in all, a nice figure. And yeah, turned out good. And I'm back after a quick little break. I had to go deal with Casey, who is freaking out at somebody walking up the street. So yeah, in the 4th shipment, we got Alpine version 6. So give you a closer look at him. This was a brand new head sculpt for Alpine. So yeah, a nice looking figure. Now, we did already have an Alpine in the modern style. So there's an Alpine, and this Alpine here is based on the original vintage figure. So this was the outfit he was wearing. This figure here is based on the look that Alpine had during the new sculpt years. So there was a figure that was released in 2004 that had the shorts and the short sleeve shirt on. And so when I found out we were getting a new version of Alpine, it seemed a little redundant. We already had this version, and it was based on version 1, which is everybody prefers the version 1 looks to these characters. And but then we got this guy, and I got to say I prefer it over this one here. It's just using more modern pieces. I think the body is mostly made up of a lot of Quinn parts. And yeah, I think the shorts look really good. And yeah, I love that new head sculpt. So yeah, this was one I wasn't all that excited about, but it ended up being one of my favorites from the set. And Alpine shipped with one of his climb-in buddies. This is Hit and Run version 4. Now, it is based on the 1988 original Hit and Run. And this sculpt here, including the head with the kind of weird stubble, but I don't think it looks bad. If you get really close to it, it's a little strange, but I like that he has the stubble. Anyway, so this whole figure was based on the 2013 Night Force set, where we got this version of Hit and Run. And so yeah, just like Psych-Out and Repeater and Muskrat and Spearhead, they were all in the Night Force set, but where Hit and Run differs from those guys is those guys, it was their first time in the modern era. But we already did have a Hit and Run before the Night Force set came out, and it was this version here. And this version here is based on the original 1988 figure as well. You can see he's dressed the same as this guy. And I was content with this Hit and Run figure. I think it looks pretty good. He's reusing the head that originally appeared on Airborne, but it's a generic looking head. It was reused. Can't get his helmet off here. Yeah, I can't get his helmet off. I'm not going to wrestle with it. But this head was used multiple times. But again, it's a generic enough looking head. You can use it on multiple guys. And the fact that it's painted green for Hit and Run, it really doesn't look like Airborne to me. But this version here, I'd say, is definitely improvement. Again, he's got newer parts. He's just got better sculpting, better articulation. I think his body is more realistic scale. And yeah, I like it a lot. So again, it wasn't one I thought we desperately needed. But since they were repainting all these other Night Force versions and giving us standard versions, it makes sense that they did Hit and Run as well. In the 5th shipment, we got Night Creeper Leader version 3. Now, you can probably tell I have a problem with this guy right off the bat because he does not stay on his stand. he will not stand up. It's because they use these little sock feet, and the holes just are not very deep. So yeah, he just topples right off of that thing. I'd kind of forgotten about that until I picked him out of my display, because he was sitting on the stand, but he was leaning against the wall. But yeah, he really doesn't stay on there, which is kind of frustrating. But anyway, it's a cool figure. You can either cover up his eyes there, or you can slide that up. You can kind of wear that as a headband, whatever you like better, I guess. But the vintage figure had the bandana over his eyes. So the original Night Creeper leader, so there's a whole team of ninjas on Cobra called the Night Creepers, and they're just generic troops. So they introduced this guy, the leader, in 1993. But this figure is actually based on version 2, which came out in 1994. So the original version was black and orange, and that one would have been cool too. I'm not sure why they decided to go with the version 2 look, because that doesn't really seem to be the MO of the Collectors Club. But I like this one too. I never had this character when I was a kid, so I don't really have a strong preference for either color scheme. So yeah, this guy turned out all right. He doesn't have any new parts. The head is a reuse of the bald head that was used for Serpentor, but they just kind of painted the top black to give him his little skull cap, and then the rest of the body is a mix of various guys, like some Storm Shadow, some Snake Eyes. But yeah, not a bad figure, but yeah, it really sucks that he doesn't stay on his stand. And Night Creeper shipped out with Bombstrike, and this is Bombstrike version 2. I've talked about her a little bit in my review of Figure Subscription Service 1, because in that subscription we got her two brothers, which is Barrel Roll on the G.I. Joe team and Blackout on the Cobra team. So all three of these characters were introduced in the new sculpt era of the early 2000s. So the first Bombstrike figure came out in 2005. I think she was originally mentioned on the file cards of Barrel Roll and Blackout, and they were calling her Bombshell, but by the time the figure actually came out, they had changed that to Bombstrike. So this figure here has got a brand new head, and it's a nice one. It looks she's supposed to be their younger sister, so she looks young. It's not too derpy like some of the heads they give us, and it's not too sexy either with bright red lips or anything. She yeah, it's just a nice realistic female head sculpt. The body is mixed from Scarlet parts and probably a few others. She had some cool accessories with her. She's got her case here. Let's just pop this open. There's a little like laptop screen. The gun fits. The gun fits inside there. The laptop screen flips up, which I'm screwing up, but yeah, you'll see that screen pops up. And then she came with like a drone, a little flying drone, which I guess she would control with her computer on her case there. And I gotta say, I really love this figure. This was my favorite from this figure subscription service. And every year on my blog, I do a top toys of the year. So and I did my top 15 of 2015 this year, I guess. And Bombstrike topped that list. She was my favorite figure out of all the Transformers and He-Man and everything else I got. Partly it's just a really nice figure and just a character that's really cool. So yeah, great figure. So in the final shipment, the 6th shipment of Figure Subscription Service 3, we got Big Ben. So this guy here is, I think, the original Brit to appear on the G.I. Joe team. So there was, Big Ben was introduced originally in 1991 in the original line. I didn't have him back then. Again, I kind of stopped collecting G.I. Joe right around that time. But this is version 7, so they did quite a few other versions of Big Ben in the years in between. But this is the first modern era version of him, and it turned out really nice. He has got a brand new head sculpt. But other than that, just a mix of parts. And yeah, I think he looks great. This color scheme based on the original 91 figure looks really good, and just the pretty straightforward military green. The one beef I have about this figure is his legs are really, really loose. So yeah, thankfully he's got a good tight stance on his base, but because otherwise he would topple over, especially with that big bag. But yeah, another win. And Big Ben shipped out with Crimson Guard Immortal, and this is version 3, and it is based on the 1991 original. So he has got a brand new head sculpt. Other than that, just a mix of parts. I think that vest first appeared on Roadblock in the Retaliation movie line. Now he came with a flag, which is pretty neat, but unlike Keelhaul in the last figure subscription service, there's no hole on his base to display it in, so he's forced to just carry it around. But yeah, this is a pretty nice looking figure. And last but certainly not least is Frostbite. So this was the mystery figure that came in the final shipment, so nobody knew what this figure was going to be until it arrived. And it is great. It was the best figure subscription service mystery figure so far up to this point, and maybe he was the best out of all 8. Because yeah, Frostbite is just a classic character. The original came out in 1985. This is actually version 14, so there were all kinds of different versions of Frostbite. But none of them were very faithful to this look. Version 2 was just the original one repainted in Tiger Force colors, so that was fine. But even then, they switched his beard from black to red for some reason. And then after that, they repainted versions of Snowjaw, but changed his name to Frostbite. And then there was versions where he didn't have any sort of beard at all. And there actually was another version of Frostbite in the modern era, and this is it. Now it's a cool figure, but nothing about it says Frostbite to me, but that's the name they gave him. So yeah, Frostbite was just all over the place. Red beards, black beards, no beards, ski mask. So this version here is based on the 1985 original, and I really liked that figure when I was a kid. It came with the Snowcat vehicle, and this one here has a brand new head, which captures the original perfectly. And the only other new part is this kind of collar that they just plopped on top of a pre-existing body. But it goes a long way in making him look unique. And yeah, I was very happy with this mystery figure. So that's my review of the 13 figures from Figure Subscription Service 3. So I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like the video below, leave me a comment, and subscribe. So stay tuned. I'll be posting videos for Figure Subscription Service 4 pretty soon, as well as whatever else comes to mind. So see you in the next video.